Was a little. Well, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining today's CSUBUY P2P demonstration on the end user experience, which are the campus customers and approvers. Campus customers are shoppers and requesters. And my name is June Butterfield, and then Michelle Winterfeld will be guiding you through today's session. So let's take a look at the agenda. Today's agenda is structured to help you better understand the roles, approval workflows, and reporting functions in the system. We're going to walk through each of these essential functionalities to ensure a seamless procurement and approval process within the system. So it's broken down into 4 different demonstrations. The first one, we're going to begin by reviewing the different roles within CSUBUY and the responsibilities. We'll discuss how shoppers, requesters, and approvers interact in the system and how their actions affect the procurement workflows. Next, we'll cover in demonstration number 2, the delegation of authority, DOA approvals, and how requisitions are routed based on assigned tiers and CFS, which is chart field streams. We're going to dive into how to assign substitutions for when an approver is out of the office to ensure that there is no delay in processing or workflow steps. Demonstration number 3, Michelle is going to focus on. In this section, we're going to go over the workflow approval processes, particularly for supporting administrative departments. So we're going to cover routing rules, approval steps, and escalation procedures to ensure requisitions are processed effectively. And then the last demonstration is searching and reporting. So we're utilizing filters right now. So we're going to demonstrate how to use filters to find specific transactions and generate reports that help support financial tracking and reconciliation. So hopefully by the end of this session, you should be able to have a somewhat solid understanding of the CSUBUY roles, approval workflows, and reporting tools that will help streamline your procurement processes in the system. So let's go ahead and navigate into the live system. All right. So basing off of last week's or earlier demonstration, we went over how to access your user roles. So I'm going to go over that one more time. Your user profile is up in the right-hand corner in the black silhouette. You go ahead and select View My Profile. On the left-hand side, you'll be able to locate user roles and access. From there, you can see what assigned roles you have. Right now, I have many assigned roles. Typically, some of these roles are going to be counterintuitive to each other. So your roles as approvers, shoppers, or requesters will all be listed under assigned roles. Now let's go ahead and talk about the difference between shoppers and requesters. Now, a cart starts with starting a requisition or request for goods or services, either through a form or a punch-out. So once they have completed either the form or the punch-out, it's going to go ahead and get into a shopping cart. I have one built here for an example. So this was an IT software request form that was utilized. This is the shopping cart level. So I completed the form and all of the questions, and afterwards I was able to be deposited into the shopping cart. Now, this is where a shopper can modify the cart name. So if you want to make it specific in nature, I'm just going to put testing in here. You can easily locate those carts in the future without having to write down the full cart name number. The other sections that are modifiable in this shopping cart area is the deliver to location. You can also modify the commodity code and make it taxable or non-taxable. If they need to change the cost details, such as the unit price, quantity, or size packaging, you would actually have to navigate back into the form to make those modifications. However, at the shopping cart level, if you are a shopper, you can assign the cart at this time, or you can proceed to check out. Proceed to check out is at the requisition level. This is prior to submitting it into workflow. If you are just a shopper, your submit request button will be grayed out and you will not be able to submit it into workflow. At that point, you would want to assign the cart to a requester who can submit it into workflow. Let's go ahead and see all the advantages if you are a shopper that you can do at the requisition level prior to assigning it. Now, once you're in the requisition level, you can add a comment if you'd like. You can add attachments. You can also modify other areas, such as the chart field string. So if you're a shopper and you have the chart field string information, you also have any information such as attachments that need to be attached, you can add those and then assign the cart to a requester to submit it into workflow. However, if you're a shopper and you just know the basics, you're not sure on which chart field string is going to be utilized or which attachments, you can assign the cart and the requester can go ahead and enter in the chart field details and any attachments or comments needed. This area right here is called the other participant information. When assigning a cart, this is going to be modified. So let's talk about it. The prepared by individual on the top there, and the prepared for individual. Since I'm the one that created the cart and also have the ability to submit it once I complete the chart field string, I'm listed in both the prepared by and prepared for. Now, the prepared for refers to the individual that created the cart. So typically that's where the shopper's name is going to appear. It could be a shopper, it could be a requester like myself that started with the cart with a form or a punch out. Now with the prepared for, if you are a shopper, you must assign the cart to a requester. You can think of the prepared for as being, you are preparing the cart for checkout for a requester. So you're preparing it for someone else. Now on the other side, the prepared by above it indicates the user who submits the cart or requisition into workflow. So this individual, the prepared by, must be a requester. You could have created the cart or been assigned the cart by a shopper or another requester. And now you are the PO owner, which means that you have the ability to initiate a PO change request. And you are also tied to the verified receive step on the voucher for receiving. So when you think of the prepared by, think of the request was prepared by me, indicating you prepared by the individual has the option of submitting it. So let's go ahead and take a look at when we assign the cart. So I'm going to go ahead and assign the cart. From our last demonstration, we went over this functionality, but you would select the search. Anything blue is hyperlinked. It's going to bring you into a new pop-up. And from there, I just want to make sure you guys are seeing, you're going to see the user search. You would go ahead and identify the individual requester that you want to assign this cart to. As you can see, when you're searching in the system, it does not identify only the requesters when you're selecting assign a cart. Since Ashley is actually a procurement specialist and does the procurement approval, he is still selectable in there. So you do have to be careful when you're assigning a cart to know who is a requester and who can submit it. We're going to go ahead and select Ashley. You can put a note in here, and I'm just going to put test. And then I'm going to hit assign. Now, let's go ahead and take a look at that assigned cart and see how the prepared by and prepare for has changed. We're going to go to Shop, My Carts and Orders, and View Carts. On here, you can see my assigned carts. So I have 2 carts that I have assigned. Let's go ahead and take a look at them and how they've changed the prepared by and prepared for. So when you're looking at an assigned cart, it's going to give you more of a PDF layout. You can see how the prepared by has now established Ashley, who I assigned the cart to, as a prepared by individual, and me, the shopper in this scenario, since I'm assigning the cart, as a prepared for individual. So when you're assigning carts, you do not have to worry about entering in the prepared by or prepared for. It will automatically do that for you. However, when reviewing those, that's how you can tell who was the shopper and who was the requester that submitted the requisition into workflow. Let's go ahead and look at another order. I'm just going to copy one to my cart. And view the differences within the participation information. Give the system a minute. So I'm just going to copy this to a brand new cart up here. This is how you can streamline copy. We'll be going over that in later demonstrations. And then give the system a minute to populate right up here. It's thinking. Okay, and so here's our cart now. So I'm going to go proceed to checkout. And let's talk about more about the participant information. Down here, we reviewed prepared by and prepared for. Now the buyer is automatically going to go ahead and get defaulted in there. You do not have to select your buyer. The other option you do have down here is what's called an ad hoc approver. Now, an ad hoc approver is allowing an additional approver to have an additional set of eyes to approve this requisition. So this functionality is essential when there's a need for approval from someone outside of the standard approval workflow, which is routed based on the commodity code used, the form used, questions answered, as well as the chart filled string utilized. So say you want an additional approver to go ahead and approve this requisition or take a look at it, you have the ability to add an ad hoc approver. Now you only can add one ad hoc approver per requisition, but you do have the ability to add them wherever you want in workflow. So I selected the blue hyperlink add, and right here, so this is the first step. After which step do you want to have this ad hoc approver be located? I'm going to have them after the branding and logo review. From here, you'd want to go ahead and filter and find an approver. Once again, this is based not on just the DOA approvers or approvers. It's going to list everybody within the system. So once again, I'm just going to select Ashley and save changes. You can write a comment in here and then save as well. So now we can look at our workflow on the right-hand side and see how it was modified to add that additional set of eyes as an ad hoc approver. You can see right up here, we got a success that the ad hoc approver is added. We had them added after the branding and logo review, and so they're located right here. If you click on it, it's going to show who you selected as your ad hoc approver, and we can see Ashley has been assigned this workflow step. Now moving on and talking about the workflow steps. If you remember, workflow steps are based on the commodity code utilized, if you're using a specific type of form, and the questions you're answering in the form, along with the elements of your chart filled string. So I'm going to go ahead and enter in my chart filled string so that this can build out to the potential approvers. Let's go ahead. I'm just going to add my code favorites in and save. If you remember from last time, we went over adding chart filled string favorites. And then from here, you can see who is going to be in each of these workflow steps once the system catches up with it. So we can see right here, branding and logo. This approval workflow step will go both to Joan and Sasha. They will both be alerted and notified they have something to approve, but only one of them needs to approve it. Once it's approved, their name will be listed under future instead. So let's go over DOA. Now, DOA is based on routing of your chart fill string elements. It's first going to route based on project. So if your chart fill string does not have a project code implemented, it will then go to the fund. If on your fund, you do not have DOA approvers identified in your DOA module, it will then go to your DEPT ID. So first project, then fund, and then DEPT ID. Let's talk about the 4 different levels of DOA. Now, DOA is set up where at Cal Poly that we have 4 different levels. The DOA, or Delegation of Authority Approver, is a designated fiscal authority within your department using funds or department ID authorizations configured in your CFS DOA module. Now, they're responsible to ensure each requisition is appropriate and the funds are accurate and available. So in the CSUBUY P2P workflow, the DOA approver receives the requisition or transaction to approve, and they are typically the first workflow step. So they perform the critical step of verifying the financial side of the transaction. As we talked about, routing is based on the chart field strings. So first, project. If there is a project code entered and there are DOA approvers listed or identified in your DOA module, it will route to the project. If not, it will go to the fund. If there's no DOA structure built out for your fund, it will lastly route to your DEPT ID. And if there's no DOA based on your DEPT ID, it's going to route to the chancellor's office to their catch-all folder. From there, they will alert you that you need to either forward this workflow step, who would you like it forwarded to, as well as it notifies you on which routing rules that you need to start assigning based on DOA, whether it's DEPT ID, fund, or project. As I spoke about before, Cal Poly has 4 different DOA levels. So our level 4 is the lowest amount. Its fiscal authority is between 0 and 250,000. So once it goes to the DEPT ID, it's going to check what fiscal amount is this order for. It's for 19,000. So that's going to be for level 4 DOA approvers based on either the DEPT ID or fund. Let's go ahead and now go into the test environment where I have some approvals to approve. Currently in the live system, I do not have any, so I built some in the testing system. Let's navigate to the home page on the test site. As you can see down below here, here's the approvals folder. This is where all your approvals are going to be listed. What's great is they write out the type. This is requisitions. It gives you a direct hyperlink to the requisition to approve. It's going to let you know which folder name it's in. This is in under DEPT ID 126100, which a DOA approver I'm assigned level 4 to. And it shows you how many days it's been in the folder. So this is like your quick view look into your approvals. You also can access your approvals by order search in My Approvals, or the third option is going to the orders flyouts, approvals, and requisitions to approve. So let's go ahead and navigate this way. From here, you can see that it's on the header. There are different sections of approvals based on requisitions, change requests, vouchers, and so forth. So right here, I do have a requisition to approve. Initially, your approval folder might look like this, where your carets are not expanded. You have the ability just to click on the caret and expand to see which different types of approvals based on different folders you're assigned to that you have something to approve. I like to go ahead and review the requisition, so I'm going to navigate to it by selecting the requisition number. The first thing as approvers that you should do is assign it to yourself. Once you assign a requisition to yourself or a voucher or anything to approve, it will allow for you to have increased functionality or ability to act on the requisition. So we can see right here, if I don't assign it to myself, from the dropdown, the only ability I have is to either approve it right away or assign it to myself. However, to do your due diligence and make sure that you're reviewing the fiscal authority and the chart field string, you should assign it to yourself. So I'm going to assign it to myself. And now let's go ahead and look from the dropdown all the different functionalities that are available. So we can see that you can approve it. You can return it to the shared folder, which means that if there's anyone else within that shared folder, there's typically more than one DOA approver in my level 4 folder, that it can go back to the folder, meaning that you accidentally assigned it to yourself, or you think that someone else within your shared folder should go ahead, review and approve it, or you ran out of time to review and approve it. So you have that option to return it back to your shared folder. The next one is to place on hold. Now, when you place it on hold, no one can do anything to the requisition. So the requester can't add a comment or add any additional attachments, and the approvers can't do anything on the requisition. It completely places it on hold. Then you have return to requisitioner, so the individual that submitted the requisition into workflow. You might need to return it to the requisitioner if you notice that the chart field string is wrong, or that and you need another line, additional items that need to be added to the requisition or corrected. When you return it to the requisitioner, it allows them to make those corrections and/or modifications and submit it back into workflow. Now, if you reject the requisition, that does not allow the requester to submit it back into workflow. That means that they need to create a brand new requisition. This could be if the requester selected the wrong supplier. A supplier cannot be changed when you return the requisition. So you'd want to reject the requisition and have them create a new requisition with the appropriate supplier. You also have the ability to forward it. So when you forward it, you can forward it to another DOA approver, say that they're in a level 3, but you would want them to approve it and not you because it's right on that pending period of 250,000, and you think that they are better suited to go ahead and approve it other than yourself. Now, one more thing about the reject requisition, like I said before, it makes it dead in the water. You're unable to go ahead and submit it back into workflow. You do have the ability to copy it to a new cart if needed, but obviously if it's rejected, that means that you need to make significant changes and impactful changes to the requisition, requiring you to submit a new one. So as a DOA approver, the first thing that you would want to go ahead and review is the chart filtering, making sure that they are utilizing the correct fund, depth ID, and account. If they're adding any project or program or class codes, you want to verify that that is correct as well. The next thing is that you're verifying the cost amount and the quantity, that that is within your fiscal budget. That's what you want to spend on that supplier. If you need further information about the questions answered or why this request is in place, you can always navigate back into the form that the requester completed on this requisition to review what they answered. To do that, you would go ahead and navigate to the form that's blue and hyperlink. Each line level has their own form based on what was entered. So since if there's different cost details for line 2, this is their form. So right above the line and the number, so there's 2, that is the item description test, and above it is the form that is coordinated with it. So let's go ahead and review that. You can go ahead and select the hyperlink, and then you can review what questions that they answered to verify your approval. Now, to navigate back to the requisition, what you would want to do is navigate back to the requisition. It's blue and hyperlink right above here. This will allow you to go back to the requisition, check out what kind of questions were asked, how they were answered, and see if there's any additional information that you need to request from the requester, or a quote, or any additional attachments. Now, as a requester or as a DOA approver, at this point, you do not have the ability to go ahead and add any attachments. If you need to add attachments, as anyone listed below, so anyone that did not submit it, to add attachments, you would go to the comments tab and select the plus sign next to it. And then you could go ahead and type in attachments or whatever attachment of the quote, and then you would add it right here. So you would choose file. You can also upload a file name, file link right here. You can see in this grayed out area, you can only add one attachment at a time. So there we go. There's the attachment I want to add, and you would select the check mark. What's great is the system knows that that is an attachment right there, and it's going to populate under your attachments header and not just your comments. So under the comments, you can see that here's the comment that I left, attachments quote, and then under the attachments header is where you can find the actual attachments. So if you're an approver and not a requester that entered the requisition to make attachments, you would navigate to the comments header above. Let's go ahead and see how it looks like when you go ahead and return to shared folder. We can see it already redirected us back to our approvals folder where we initially assigned or looked at this requisition that we have something to approve. So it's going to go back into the shared folder with the other admins I have for this depth ID. Let's go back to the requisition itself, assign it to myself, and then go ahead and you can either return it to the shared folder as we just did, place on hold what we talked about, which will place it on hold for everyone. We can return it to the requester. So I can return it to Thomas and say, Thomas, please update the chart filled string. I can forward it to another approver. Say, I want Ashley to approve it. We can forward it to Ashley. If Thomas selected the wrong supplier or this is an inappropriate, inaccurate requisition, he can reject it. And then the requisitioner will know that it's rejected. They'll get a notification. They'll have to start the process from a clean state, either a new form or a punch out. And so those are the aspects or functionalities as a DOA approver or approver you'll have in the system. Let's go back into the live environment, and I want to go over an important topic. So when you're an approver or DOA approver and you are identified in DEPT IDs, funds, and projects, you want to make sure when you're away from campus or have the inability to go ahead and get into the CSUBUY system and approve things that you set up your substitutions for approvals. This will help stop any kind of delay in processing in the workflow, allow for the requisition to complete within a timely manner, and allows you to free yourself up for when you get back from vacation, you don't have numerous requisitions to approve right away. So let's go over the steps on how to set up substitutions while out on leave. So you're going to want to go to orders. You can see that right there, and you can go to approvals. And then what you want to do is assign substitute approvers. You can go to the first one for requisitions. So you can see that I have two approval folders, my PR approvals, and then here is my DOA DEPT ID approval folder. You can either assign all requisition folders, or you can assign a certain one by just checking the box to the right. From there, you can select assign. The great thing is I always emphasize including a date range, because the system itself will route based on the date range. It'll automatically start the substitution and end the substitution for you. So first, we're going to find the substitute's name. Now, as always, that I've talked about when you're searching for anyone to forward or assign, it's going to be everyone listed in the system. So you want to make sure when you're substituting another DOA approver that A, they have the same or higher fiscal amount, and B, that they know which DEPT IDs and funds that they are approving. So I'm going to go ahead and find Ashley one more time in the system. We can see here's Ashley. You select them on the right. And now let's go ahead and put in the start date and times. From here, I'm going to start my substitution tomorrow at 12 a.m. You can also modify that time period. Let's start at 8. And then I'm going to end the substitution the next day. And then I'm going to do it at 8 a.m. This will then allow Ashley to receive any of the notifications that I would receive for something to approve based on this folder, DEPT ID 126100. I know that Ashley is actually a level 3 DOA approver and not a level 4 DOA approver, for example. So he would be appropriate in nature to go ahead and approve this. However, say that I'm a level 3 and I identified a level 4, you may want to be cautious since they do not have the fiscal authority to. Then you can go ahead and select assign. You can see right here, it's been updated. You can see the approver was myself, the substitute is Ashley, and here's the start and end times and dates. Say you got back from vacation early or that you want to go ahead and substitute it to someone else, you have the ability to end the substitution prior to the end date by just selecting remove. And there you go. That's how you can assign a substitute while you're out on leave to make sure that requisitions are not delaying in processing or workflow steps. So at this time, I'm going to pause and I'm going to let Michelle share her screen, and she's going to go over approval roles and workflows.
Great, thank you, June. I'll go ahead and share my screen. I'm going to talk for just a minute about other approvals. So June went over DOA approvals, which is, of course, the financial approval we usually get before we process a requisition into a PO. CSUBUY has the ability to have other approvals in the workflow. And so it's been a really good thing for us. You can kind of see the path June was leading everybody on: shopper, requester, DOA approver. That's where June was. We have other approvals in place prior to it getting to the procurement review step for procurement specialists to process the requisition. So that's kind of the approvals I'm talking about. And as far as helping you think about what happens, so in the past phase, what we would have is procurement would receive a requisition, and then we'd have to kind of bounce out to everybody across campus and supporting departments to make sure they reviewed and approved the request before we process our and finalize our PO. So that's kind of where we started before CSUBUY. We'd have to actually wait. Did the ICT review get approved? Did facilities issue a building permit? Did fleet services review this? And a lot of those would be done like maybe over email, and you'd have to talk to your requisitioner again. So CSUBUY is almost inverting that. And those steps and approvals are happening before they get to you in procurement. And so you can see that those approvals by supporting departments are now taking place prior to the procurement review step. So very important concept there. And there are a lot of them. There are a lot of them potentially. And so what I'm going to take you through right now is kind of our thought process on which ones might be available and useful for your campus, and which ones, kind of take place in those steps and what to think about. So I'm going to go ahead and go to this document, which will look eventually like one that you guys probably are presented with, which is which approvals do we want on our campus? And thinking about, what triggers those reviews and who are potential people on your campus and groups of people to review them. And so I'm going to go through those with you guys. One nice thing about, us getting the requisitions after the reviews and the visibility that CSUBUY has is that your requisitioners can now see where it is in the workflow. So whether it's still hung up with a DOA approver or it's still with ITS for the ICT review, they can see themselves where their requisition is. And so we're not getting those common complaints that we might get today of procurement's holding it up, right? They can kind of see that you're not holding it up. You haven't even seen it yet. So that kind of visibility is a great feature. So here are most of the potential supporting department reviews. And I'll just float through it really quickly so you can see kind of how many there are. And your campus will be kind of, do you want this approval turned on? Do you not want it turned on? And who is going to be the approvers on your campus for those? So this first one here is secondary review. This review we have immediately after the DOA. So as June was showing you the DOA step and then it moved on, this review would pop up right away. We have it set up for potentially like if you have auxiliary funds, grant funds being used, university campus programs, so donor funds. You kind of have an extra approval because sometimes those are different people than the true just DOA people for departments. And so you might want to add those extra folks in a review step. So potential reviewers are your accounting people. Maybe procurement knows what it should be used for. Maybe they don't. Maybe you have an auxiliary oversight team. And then here is a sample requisition that I'm going to show you that actually had one. So on my fly out, I'm going to go to the requisitions filter, because this is not my own requisition. This is just one of them that's floating around right now through campus. Okay, so this is an active requisition right now. You can see after the DOA approval got done, there was a secondary review. And on our campus, our secondary reviews are set up for donor funds, the campus programs, and it's set up to trigger on either 6,000 or 7,000 numbered funds. So you can see this one is actually a 7,000, so that's why it triggered the secondary review before all of the other reviews and the workflow. IT review is a very other common one. This one is kind of not the ICT review ones. This is just a general. Does IT want to look at our hardware and software purchases across campus to see if they're acceptable? Are they standard items? Are they non-standard items that maybe have to be looked at a little bit more? And so the form itself is triggered on the use of the IT software request form or the IT hardware request form by requisitioners, or the commodity codes show up in any form. So generally, you're looking at your ITS folks wanting to be those reviewers. And then here is one live requisition that has that review step in place. The other good thing too is that when those reviews happen, here's the IT review in the workflow. You can see Michael Salmon approved it. It's going to be in there associated to this record forever. And so that's pretty cool that you don't have to do those things like, oh, I need to print the email where they confirmed and I need to upload it here in the attachments. You don't have to do those kinds of things because they're already there. And, you know, you can see them kind of doing it in the history. If they had any comments with the campus folks before they wanted to approve it, you could see probably those comments here between the two parties. So it does provide a good form for even like ITS to say, hey, I'm thinking maybe you should change it to a different model or blah, blah, blah. So that's the IT review. Accessibility and security review are kind of in tandem. There is a combined accessibility and security review option for an approval, just in case it's the same team that does both. On our campus, it wasn't the same team. They're all in ITS, but it's two very distinct people that do each of these steps. So this is for network security, and this is for accessibility. You might have somebody on the ATI team. So again, triggered by software, the use of the software form, or the commodity codes of software. And here's an example of that one. So you can see you're starting to add people into the mix on your campus that, you know, you had to kind of wait around on before, but now they're active participants. So here's where June was, the DOA approval. Then it went to the regular IT review and Vincent approved it. And then it went into the accessibility and security review. And you can see that those two steps were approved by different people because they have different functions. And then it went on to procurement after that. So you can see they're kind of in between the DOA and the procurement review. System review is another kind of IT review. It was scheduled to trigger on software request form or the commodity codes. When we kind of, you know, talked to our IT department, they felt they had enough in these other three reviews that they didn't need this other one. But let's say there were like, you know, VP of your ITS department thought that they wanted to look at all the softwares to make sure from an enterprise perspective, and it was really different people than this review up here. They could add in that review. Sorry, this review. But again, our campus didn't turn this one on. Facilities review, a very big review. Facilities review is scheduled to trigger when certain questions are asked and answered in the affirmative on this one. Does the furniture or its components require additional handling? And this is kind of, you know, it's not just a chair. It's not just a little filing cabinet. It's kind of like, you know, there's an installation or something else going on. And you can exclude any requisition that's using a DEPT ID that is facilities' own DEPT ID, because one can assume they know what they're doing. They shouldn't have to review their own requests, kind of a thing. Here's the other question, and it would be answered no to trigger this review. Have you had prior communication with facilities on this request? And that would be on the equipment if they selected equipment. So if they said, no, you know what, I haven't talked to them before about this, then it would trigger a facilities review. Another more popular is just furniture is the commodity code selected because it's the type of, you know, item they're buying on the requisition. Furniture will always trigger the facilities review unless it's a facilities stepped ID themselves. So people on your campus, you may want to send it to your facilities inspectors team, those that issue permits and inspect things. Your facilities operations, or let's say front desk folks, might be the ones on your campus that would want to look at these, or your capital projects teams, perhaps. In this case, for us, it was our inspectors team that ended up being the group of folks that wanted to review these in the facilities review step. And you could see BKM, that's one of our steel case furniture vendors. And so this requisition is actually currently in facilities review step. It also looks like it spent, campus programs money. And here's the group of folks that they set up to do this facilities review. So any of these people are okay to approve this. You may see one or two people are, the core people that step up and do the actual work and the approvals, and the others are kind of just backups for them. Independent contractor review. So it's triggered by supplier class as the independent contractor. So kind of like an individual, or the independent contractor form is what was selected to start the requisition. So potential groups on campus that might review it are human resources or procurement. In our case, our human resources department did not get set up and did not want to be set up to do those approvals. So we currently have them with our procurement management team. And you can see right here, Darren was the one that actually did approve it before it moved on to the actual procurement review step, which is where the procurement specialist will process it. Security and safety review is another review. Drones, safety and security supplies and services, weapons. There are several triggers, and so you might want those items to go to your risk management folks. You might also want them to go to procurement to take a special look, maybe procurement managers. So anyway, this one, we ended up deciding to send drone and weapons to risk management, and we sent the rest to procurement management. And we kind of predicted, and we ended up finding it's true, that just general security services on campus, like for events and things, the people that are at the gates and, keeping control, that people select that a lot. And so we kind of didn't want that to go to risk management and get kind of caught up. So anyway, this is a potential review. Hospitality review, if the form used is the hospitality form. Potential folks on campus, you might want to review it, are accounting people, accounts payable folks, procurement folks, or maybe nobody. In our case, we did not trigger the hospitality review. We make it a part of the procurement's regular review when they receive requisitions. We just didn't have a separate group that was willing to step up and take that look. Same with catering. We just didn't have that group. But if you have those groups, maybe a food services group, accounting folks, maybe an operational group, you could do that. Vehicle review is another review. It'll trigger on these commodity codes related to vehicles. And also if the question what kind of vehicle request is, it's answered with a lease or a rent or a purchase. So folks you might want to have review it is like, let's say your fleet services people, or the one that is delegated to approve on behalf of your division, or even procurement folks. So on this one, here is a live item that was reviewed. So I'm just going to go to the requisitions screen, search that up, and show you that it's actually not been reviewed yet. It's coming up. Right now, it's in the DOA step for financial approval. But these are our two folks representing the Fleet Services Department that have agreed to review those for us. Alcohol review usually needs special attention, so we put our risk management folks on that one. Branding or logo, our marketing group was willing to step up and do those reviews for us. And even though they might have their own processes, let's say, we have a process that they can completely mark and say on any request going through the system. So even though they may have, here's that branding and logo review, and I think you guys saw one earlier with June. So this is our marketing team representative. They have their own system where folks across campus request the use of the brand or logos. And but they were kind enough to still do ours, which is, it catches some things maybe that other people don't put in. And they can kind of line those up and match those up to their own process. Legal services is a review that's available. So OGC, general counsel, or procurement might be kind of tapped to do that on your campus. In our case, our general counsel did not want to approve them, so we don't have that one turned on. EH&S for hazardous materials and controlled substances. You might want them to be in that review. Live animal purchase, we didn't end up doing this one. Blank asset profile, so this is related to property management, property accounting. So if they select that it's an asset and they leave it blank, we don't really want things to float around with blanks. So we want that to be kind of caught and able to be affected and changed around. So you might put those folks on it. So these are 2 reviews that are done after procurement's review step. So, like I mentioned, some of them are done. Most of these are done prior to getting to procurement. These last 2 happen after procurement step. And that is accounting review. So if on the chart field string, there's a default account code that's going to populate based on the commodity code selected for that line based on what they're buying. And if they want to request that the account code in the chart field string used changes to something else, they can actually request that in the chart field area. And then we have it set up to where after procurement processes that requisition, it will stop again in with our accounting team, and they can review that request. So you can see here's the accounting review. They did, approve it and everything. And here's what it looks like if it's going to trigger. This was like the default account code based on the commodity code of what they're buying, and they had actually entered this override screen. And then sole source, this is a fun one because everybody thinks, oh, I only have one quote. I'm going to pick that it's a sole source. And we actually kind of want to discourage that because if somebody picks sole source in a requisition, depending on the dollar amount, it will actually go to the right people that CSU policy has dictated has to approve those sole sources. So if you're looking at something, $400,000, you've got a requisition that's going to Dave Beaver for approval after it leaves procurement. So you really kind of have to be aware of that. But these are kind of mandatory approvals. They'll be set up for you. So you're going to have, your procurement director. So you'll let them know who that is. Your campus VP level, you're going to let them know who that is. And then the chancellor's office is just going to be set up for you. All right. So as far as approvals, you can kind of see how there are a lot of approvals available, and it is super helpful for them to take place before they get to you. As far as us as a campus, we really had to kind of sell participation in CSUBUY from those areas. And so we wanted to let you know these types of approvals don't just happen. You kind of have to go and say, hey, we've got some new functionality that we can, let you be a part of. And you do your best to kind of demo it, answer their questions. What will that look like? And really sell it to them. And also figure out who within their group would be the folks that you would put on that group to actually process the approvals. And then we recommended that they get the approver training in the original trainings before we went live. And after we went live, we said, hey, if you're going to be an approver, you should attend the approver training. So anyway, just kind of a little bit about that. And, not everybody did want to participate. So that will kind of help you tell the implementation teams which approvals you want turned on and turned off. So I think I'll go ahead and turn it back to June for the last segment.
Great, thanks, Michelle. So just tying up all our loose ends with DOA approvers and approvers. We can see that on this requisition right here, I had a chart field string entered. I have a project. I have an account override. I have a dept ID and a fund. But you can see the workflow steps triggered the dept ID. And that's because there are no identified DOA approvers for this project or this fund. So it went straight to the dept ID. And then you can verify by clicking on the dept ID. David and Dee were both sent the notification for something to approve. Only one of them has to approve. Now looking at this one, it was triggered by DOA approval dash fund. So first it went to project. There was no approvers for project. Then it went to fund. And we did have DOA approvers set up for this fund. And so it went to them instead of going to the third place for the dept ID. So now finishing up today's demonstrations, we're going to go over searching and reporting. So typically I like to go to orders and go to the requisitions all, so you can see all of your campus's requisitions. What's great is the first thing that I like to do, which we talked about last time, is changing the submit date. I want to go ahead and either put a specific date in or select all based on what I want to search for. It's always going to default to the last 90 days, no matter what you're searching for. So I'm going to do all. I'm also going to show you how you can modify your columns. So over here, here's a gear icon. And what that is going to allow you to do is modify your configured column displays. What you're seeing right down here, the submitted date, total amount prepared for. Those are listed all over here on the right. You have the ability to remove them or move them on how you want to view them. So say I want to see the status actually right next to the requisition number. I can move it there. Another one that I like to see is you can do, let's go down. You can go into, is it prepared by? So it's already going to have the prepared for. If you want to see who the shopper was, you can put that in. You can also put in a project, you could put a dept ID, you could put in a fund, however far you want to go ahead and filter down to. So I'm going to apply these column displays, and then you'll see how the requisition status moved from over here to the right to the left. So you can have it built on how you want to view your columns. The next area is to add filter. So I like to do status. So I want to see the status of the requisition. I just want to see statuses of completed requisitions, knowing that I want to see all the completed requisitions. And you can apply. You can apply multiples at this time. You have the ability of any time with that to utilize that drop down and either remove what you have applied or add additional. So I want to see completed. The next filter that I like to utilize is the workflow step. So say I want to see all completed. Let's go ahead and current workflow step. And so you can see, is it stuck? So say we have it under pending. We want to see all the requisitions that are pending that are at the current workflow step of DOA approval. And you can apply that. And from there, you're able to see all the requisitions that are at the DOA approval step at this time. Once you have filtered down to what you want to actually view, you do have the ability to go ahead and pin your filters, which these are your filters right here. Or you can export if you'd like as well. When you pin your filters, it's going to say every time that you open up searching all requisitions, these two pin filters will appear. You can either remove the filters by selecting the X next to them or going from the drop down of the pin filters and remove pin filters. The next thing is you have the ability to export all. So when you export all, you're going to have it populate. You can put a title in if you want. I'm just going to put in test. You have the ability of what type you want. I typically do the screen layout of Excel, but from here you can do full export, which is going to be a CSV, transaction CSV, as well as user-defined template. So I stick with the screen layout, and then you can hit submit. You're going to get this green succession little banner right here, and you can either view your search exports right here, or you can go ahead and go to the drop down over here and manage your search exports. You can also find your search exports in your action items when they're completed. So there's multiple ways to navigate to the actual search exports. So let's go ahead and take a look at it. You can see I have many search exports that I have completed today. This one right here, if you do a title, it is easier to locate. And then you can just find and locate it. It's going to download to your computer and then you can open it up. What's great about the searching capabilities is you have the ability just to search for yourself through your requisitions or all requisitions through your whole campus. Each individual has insight and visibility into everyone's requisitions, POs, vouchers, or so forth. When we do the payment demonstration next week, I'll show you which filters I like to apply to make sure that you are able to view which vouchers are stuck at the workflow steps for receiving, so your clients are notified that they have vouchers to receive on. So I appreciate everyone's patience today. I'm just going to go back through and leave on the PowerPoint of the delegation of authority of how Cal Poly went through in our different levels and level definition, roles and titles, and approval authority limits that we've set. Other campuses have 5 levels. We have decided to go with 4 levels at our campus. We have an explanation down here as well, stating that obviously if the department head has approval for it, DEPT ID 225001 and fund, they're level 4 in both, proving up to 250. I hope everyone has a beautiful afternoon. We have 1 minute to spare. I'll just go back and look at the previous. This was just as the other slide that Michelle showed you on approvers. You can see DOA approvers. So we went through shoppers, requesters, DOA approvers, and approvers today. And on Friday, we're going to go over procurement. And the following week, we're going to go over receiving and payment.